Questions? Just jump in, yeah.
If I just ask, with the B average now, and it was interesting to hear from the students like how they felt about the B average. For the teachers, did anybody feel kind of under threat, and anybody feel that was a big ask for the teachers as well?
No, as long as we understood. It took us a while to understand when we first started Murray, when it was a C or better, and when we had Schools Without Failure and we hadn't yet become a quality school. It took us a while as a staff to understand that that we aren't doing anybody any favors by lowering the level of academic achievement to help everybody have a C or better. You know, what will help students is if we have a really clear picture of what is a B level and better of academic achievement in every subject area. And honestly, we try to make it harder than it would be in regular schools, so that, because these are bright people and they can do a whole lot more than schools ever ask them to do. And so we want to keep raising the bar for them. Not making it so high they get discouraged, but high enough that they keep reaching for it. And so once we realized that, and that it was okay to end up a semester with, if you had 15 or 20 kids in a class and you have 10 who are incomplete, it doesn't mean you're a bad teacher. It means those 10 haven't figured out yet how to get all this work done. And they're still doing the negative, resisting behaviors that they came to you with. And it's going to take them longer to get through it. And we just say, okay, keep working. You know, we'll meet them over the summer. We'll meet them at night. We'll meet them on Saturdays. We have the school open every Saturday. You know, we'll meet them whenever they're ready to work. We're there. We go, okay, keep working. You know, so does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Something that strikes me is that you're coming from a school that deals with, let's say, difficult students, and your class sizes would be bigger than our centres that deal with difficult students. But Anna Nush is coming from mainstream education, where the class sizes are closer to our mainstream. Anna Nush, you've heard Charlotte's story, you've heard her students. How would your school differ in its approach to the quality school compared with hers?
Well, it's not a big difference. It's just different approach, I suppose. We start on the other end, or on the other, I don't know, yes. We started with the education teachers in choice theory, and we started to change our behave, try to change our beliefs that students are lazy, they don't want to work, and so on and so on. That was very difficult. You cannot imagine how difficult it is, even for parents. Parents believe that his own son is lazy and he doesn't want to work and he doesn't want to succeed. So this was the main thing that I think that we should change. Afterwards, everything just, we do mediation, we do lots of conversation. If the problem arises, we invite teacher or children or both of them to talk what's going on, what happened. And usually we find the solution. And after all, well, it appears time to time, again, between these two or other teacher and children and so on. But what we are doing is talking to each other and listen to each other. And also it was the parents and the teachers were very scared because they said that choice theory is the theory without borders. You know, you can do anything you want to do and nothing happened. But our lives tells us that that's not true. Life always do things that happened at the end. if you decide to do that, or if you decide to do other things. So if we have a look from the life part of cooperation and being together, we know that there are consequences if I do something. And all we have to do is to search what consequences are going to be if I decide, well, now to stand up and go out, and not to do things that I need to graduate, or I'm blaming my teacher. What's going to be? And it's true that you said that students are not thinking about teachers, what their feelings are when they are arguing or they are blaming and so on. And it's quite nice when you see the students, when you said, what do you think, how the teacher feels about that? I said, well, I didn't think about it. I said, how would you feel if? I said, it's not good. So what are you going to do now? And usually it was, I will go and apologize. And I said, is that enough? What do you think? Is that enough to go and to apologize? And he said, usually, well, no, but I don't know what to do. What else I can do? And so we are talking again what else he can do to repair the relationship with teacher, or with schoolmate, or with somebody else. So I think that it was usually that our teachers at the start, they said, well, we have 25 kids in the classroom, we have 28, well, we can't do that, we can't talk and talk and talk, we have to learn them. And then I said, well, okay, then go and teach, and how can you be satisfied with your results when your students are not successful, because there is not the good atmosphere for working in a classroom. And they realized that it's much better to talk first, because the work is much more quicker, and there's much more quality in that work because of the relationships.
And I'd like to go back to what you said about people thinking that choice theory means there are no boundaries. You know, what I try to tell my kids, and there's a middle school in our area trying to open up and do this, and they're having trouble with this too. The teachers are just beginning to learn choice theory, and they don't understand the concept of personal boundaries. And so the kids are acting like total wild maniacs in that building, and the teachers can't stand it, and they think it's because of choice theory. And so when I go over there and I try to tell them, you know, you're trying to teach through people being rude to you. How safe do you think the other students in the class feel when even the teacher is fair game? They can pick on you, threaten you, yell at you, make fun of you, ignore you completely, and you don't say or do anything. You don't stop them. You don't stop and say, and they say, but that would be punishment. And I go, well, you could try to lash out and punish, but I don't think that would work. So you can try it if you want. But what you could do is stop and say, we can't go forward. It's a non-negotiable for me personally. And I happen to be the teacher of this class. But I'm not going forward one step until it's polite and people are polite in this room. And if that means that we have to get some help and some support to help us treat each other well, then we'll get that. But I'm not going to let anybody be in a classroom where it's uncomfortable for them. And I'm uncomfortable, so it must be uncomfortable. I'm one. I count. I'm one of the people in this room, and I'm uncomfortable. And as long as I'm uncomfortable, I'm not teaching. We're going to figure it out. And then you figure it out. You just take the steps necessary. And then they learn that if they want to learn from you, that it's a partnership. You know, you're not going to just hand out education to them for free. It's a partnership. We're doing this as a team. And part of the partnership is, you know, you're participating in a friendly, polite way, and so am I. And that's not happening right now. We don't have a team that's working. Okay, let's get a team that's working. What do we do? What's the next step so that we can work? And so you are putting out the confidence that no matter how unruly this group of people seems to be right now, they can and will, they really do want to, figure out how to become a team that works well together. Because really, that feels so great. I mean, you can tell from looking at these kids, working as a team feels good. They're friendly with each other. It feels good. And kids who are pushing against all that and resisting, they are not happy. You can look at their faces. They are not happy people. They don't know how to do it, and they need your help. So what I'm trying to tell those teachers is don't ignore it. Stop. Stop teaching. Deal with it. Talk about it. And if it takes 6 months of doing that before you get to education, it won't. But if it did, again, it would be worth it. So the boundaries are for you as a teacher. You decide what are you willing to deal with. Yeah.
I get the sense from listening to you that a lot of your teaching is facilitation, and I think that a lot of teaching in Ireland perhaps is giving lessons, and I'd like if you'd say something about that, and maybe also about how you provide the resources that are needed for the kind of teaching you do.
And you want to talk about that? You want me to? Okay. Oh, there's so many things to say about that. I think it's normal in America too that mostly teachers stand up and profess. They're at the front of the room teaching. And they think in their heads that that is getting content across to the kids. And we would say that the time that you spend teaching is time taken away from them learning, which is a very strange thing to say. But we would argue that that is the case, because once you get out of the way, if you set something in motion and then get out of the way and let them do it, so much more is learned. Like that's why I was sitting over there with my because it's not up to me, it's up to them to run that, and I could tinker with it if I want, but then that's me getting in their way. And they are going to be so much more proud of themselves when they talk about this in the future that, you know, Ms. Wellen sat over there and she didn't even say a word the whole time and we ran the whole thing. You know, they're going to feel great about that. And so my job, I see myself and the other teachers feel the same way. Our job is to come up with as many hands-on lessons that get kids involved as we can. Now we can't come up with all of them that way. There's sometimes we shift gears into professing, but usually not for more than 5 or 10 minutes to get something up and running. You won't see us spend an hour lecturing or half an hour even lecturing, because people just start going, well, you know, and what's the point of that? There must be a way to help them learn it that's more exciting. And so you ask about resources. We do a lot to help each other. One of our meetings every week is sharing what we're doing in the classroom and getting ideas from each other. And we also all go to conferences and we go to lots of different scenarios, places to go to get ideas. And we just suck in every idea that we can and then we try it. And we have a principal that is fantastic at letting us try things like this. I mean, she doesn't get in anyone's way about an idea. If we can come up with a rationale that seems reasonable to try it, she'll say, good, let's try it, and then let's measure, you know, is it working or not working? You know, how's it going? I mean, one of the big things that the kids requested that was very hard on the principal was they wanted shorter classes so that we could take time away from individual, like if we had 3 classes in a day, take time away from each of those and create an extra class, because they come to us having failed everything. And they're 16 or 15 years old, and we call them credit hungry. They need the credits to graduate, they need to get more and more credits, and yet there isn't enough time in the day. And they said, well, just make each class shorter. Well, the state, of course, has an opinion about that, and in the US, it's mostly 140 hours of seat time. You said bum time? Yeah. Sitting in the chair, right? Sitting in the chair. And so we wrote a request to the state. It took our principal 3 or 4 years to get this past the state, and the only reason was they looked at those test scores. And they said, okay, you can run a pilot where you take 12 minutes, that was the maximum they would give us. You can take 12 minutes from each class, and then we want to see those test scores. Well, they went up. They went up. We took 12 minutes out of each class, and the test scores went up. So what does that tell you? I mean, and the kids got an extra credit out of that. So now they can get an extra credit. No, it was their choice. So we look for as many new ideas and resources as we can. We take them from everywhere, I would say.
As I listen to you, it's only one sentence is just running around my mind, that we are trying to change the system, not the people. And we are trying to do that immediately when it happens the need to the change. If I try to answer your question, it's in our school it's much easier with the youngest, from 6 to 11 years, because the teachers are used to work in workshops, in the nature. They go out and they are allowed to shorten or to lengthen the lessons. So it depends on the concentration of the pupils and the work they have to do. But these kids are coming on the, well, we said secondary level, when they have subjects, and each subject teaches other teacher. And these teachers are much more giving lessons than the others. And they have problems at first when they, well, children just come to the door. So they have to change their methods, and we are trying to work like Glasser is writing in a book. Every student can succeed. Yes, that's competent learning lessons. I suppose that's the competent-based lessons. Yes. So try to be well, defer the content of the lesson, and also individualize the lesson. So if someone needs more and someone needs less, so you have to prepare yourself when you come to the class, that you know what are you going to do, or what work are you going to give some of that students. And also they do lots of work in groups and with cooperation and teamwork, and a lot in the nature. We have camps. Each class they have camps. They go to the mountains, to the forest in the mountains, to cooperate, to listen to the trees and the nature, to listen to each other, how they are learning how to cooperate and how to speak to each other. We have ski camps, we have swimming camps, we have survival in the nature and everything like that. So lots of things that we try to give an experience, a live experience to our pupils, to for better survival. And resources we have also, like Charlotte said, we have workshops, teachers, as you saw, and we exchange the knowledge, and also we go and we have some seminars and education and so on. And the difference between other Slovenian schools and our school is that we share the knowledge between us.
One of the things that happened recently at Murray is that I was getting lots of requests from teachers who had done the basic intensive week but had not gone on to do a practicum to do a practicum. And then I had a bunch of other teachers who had not done a basic intensive week yet who said, I really want to do the basic intensive week. And so our principal gave us one of the meetings a month that we normally have on Thursday afternoons, and we turned that into a year-long basic practicum, and 100% of the staff signed up for it. And some of them are already certified. They've gone through Cert Week, but they wanted to be there to participate and do the role plays and everything with each other and practice with each other. They didn't want to be left out. So it was just a way, because we see each other as resources too. And I loved what you showed in your video, your PowerPoint, about the friendship between the staff and how important that is. And we use mediations with ourselves too, and we get mad at each other for various things. We sit down and work it out. We hash it out with each other too, which is great. Yes.
When we were talking about mediation earlier with students, you mentioned there that a student could nominate somebody else to mediate with them. Could you talk a little bit about that and just
Sure.
through the steps of mediation?
Okay, if a student comes to me and says, and I'm the one who keeps the mediation list, and I update it every day. So if a student comes to me and says, I want to mediate with X, Y, or Z student, then I will say, okay, you want to tell me a little bit about the situation, and are you, just really to kind of figure out where they are right now, because the mediation table is not where you air your grievances. It's not where you sit down to tell the other person how much you hate them or how mad you are, anything like that. The mediation table is where you work out a plan. So if you're not ready for that, that's okay. But that's my job as the mediator, if I'm the third party you picked, is to say it's not, you're not quite ready yet, or to ask them, what are the rules of mediation and do you think you're ready? I mean, usually I would ask them that. And when it looks like we both agree that they're ready, then I would go and find the other student at a time that I'm available to do that, and I will ask them in the hallway. I'll take them out in the hall and say, you've been invited to a mediation. Do you know anything about it? And they almost always say, yeah, I know who it is, and I know they're mad at me. They know. And I say, okay, are you available to mediate today? And if they say no, then I say, okay, when will you be ready to mediate? And they get it. It's a non-negotiable. I mean, that's a RAMPS thing. They can't say no. They can say no. We had one girl a few years ago who was scared to sit down in front of somebody else and tell them what she thought. She was a very private, quiet girl. And she said, I'm going home and I'm not mediating. And she went home. And we said, okay, come back when you're ready to mediate. And every day I would call her and say, are you ready to mediate today? Because we'd love to have you back. And she said, you're not mad at me? And I said, no, we're not mad at you. We're just sorry that you're feeling so uncomfortable. And she said, well, then let me out of the mediation. And I said, sorry, that's a non-negotiable at Murray. We all need to mediate when someone thinks it's necessary. So when you're ready, let me know. What can I do to help you get ready? And on the third day of staying home, the principal's saying to me, Charlotte, how long are we waiting? Is this kid going to outweight us? I said, I hope not. We'll see what happens. And on the third day, she said, well, I don't want to miss any more classes. I will come in and mediate, but only if my mom can be with me. I need my mom in the room with me. I said, well, that's kind of up to the other person in the mediation. I will check with them. If they're willing to let your mom sit there, would your mom agree to just nothing, just to sit in the back, poker face, can't say anything? She said, yeah, my mom will do that. I said, okay, I'll check. So the other girl said, ugh, somebody's mom's going to be in the mediation. I don't know about that. And I said, well, they're very nervous and they really just need some support. Would you mind? And they said, no, all right, I can stand it. So the mom comes in, she sits in the back of the room, the two girls are sitting up in the front with me, and all of a sudden, the other girl gets up from the table and says, oh my God, and she goes running out of the room. And the other girl runs after her to see what the problem is, and she's sick on her stomach. And they make friends in the bathroom. And so when they come back from the bathroom, they say, okay, we've got this hashed out now, and here's the plan, and they got the plan, and that was the end of that. And after that, she had no trouble coming to mediations. It was the fear of it. So that's the process, and we rarely have people resist it now. I mean, it's very rare that people do. Sometimes they want to mediate when they really just want to yell at each other, and so we have to kind of slow down the process a little bit. But that's it. And then once it's done, it's done. I keep the plans on my computer in case people need to refer to it, and I'll print it off. And that's also on your CD. I have a lot of plans, so you can see what does a plan look like, and what does a typical choices plan look like. I've got a bunch of those in there too, so you can see that. Somebody else had a hand, yeah.
Students with special needs or literature problems, how long do they stay with you?
Special needs students?
Yeah, special needs, and particularly around the literature level. If you bring a student into a school and they're going to say, we need kind of a minimum or a B, it's very hard, it's a very high amount of the time with persons.
It is. The reason we have such a high percentage of students who are special ed is because special ed parents tend to advocate for their kids, and they know our school is a really good place for their kids. Because we don't, if a student says, I can't help this, I have ADHD, or I have this, that, or the other, we say, okay, we understand that you're challenged by that. How are you going to get past it? What can we do to help you succeed? And we don't engage in feeling sorry for them for this problem. We say, so you have 1 million gifts, here they are. I mean, we can see 1 million gifts that you've got. How are you going to use those gifts to get past this problem you've got with reading or whatever it is? And even with the most serious cases, it works. It works. I mean, I was telling someone at lunchtime, we had a girl who had cerebral palsy, and she could not form words very well. And she had been tortured to within an inch of her life in the regular schools because of her voice problem. And she had developed this skin of anger and resistance and frustration, and then you couldn't understand what she said. So not only is she walking around like this all the time, but she's, you can't hear her, can't understand her. So she just had a huge mountain to climb. And in the IEP meeting, which is what they do to set up the special ed requirements, when she first came in, her mother got angry at us because on the IEP from the other school it had said, we'll never get a diploma, can't pass the SOL tests, we'll never be able to pass the state tests, is going to need to have a special ed diploma. Right? That's what it said on the sheet, and we're getting this kid in 10th grade, and we've got 3 years with this kid, and they're telling us right up front, forget it, she's not going to get any of this stuff. And we said, no way. We're not accepting her with that on there. We're going to help her graduate with a regular diploma if that's what she wants. And she said, I want that. And her mom said, no, you don't, because her mom was afraid she was going to get hurt. And she was mad at us for putting her child in danger of getting seriously hurt by not graduating. But then we set about the task of giving her the support she needed to let go of all the anger, to start focusing on learning, and she had a hard time doing it. But she became in love with Murray, so at community meetings she would take the mic and she started speaking. She came out with me and did some of these things at universities. And she worked hard on being able to be understood in presentations about Murray because she became so passionate about it. And she would stand up in community meetings and say, okay, everybody, I've been working for 2 years to pass my history test, and it's coming up this week. I need everybody to cheer for me right now. 1, 2, 3. Everybody cheer. And now the whole school is like, ooh, excuse me, would start cheering. I just lost my voice. Is there water? Yeah, I just lost my voice too. Yeah, it's not coming without water, I don't think. So that can work, there it comes, that can work with everybody, I mean, I don't think there'll be that many kids who are more challenged than she was, and she graduated with a standard diploma, she passed every single test, it took a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of one-on-one, and a lot of her decision to do it, but thank you, but we helped her decide to do it by taking away all the reasons she had to quit. She had all the reasons of everyone hates me, everyone picks on me, everyone da-da-da-da, I can't do it, all that stuff. And we just took all that away by showing her she could. So it worked even with her. And she got a standing ovation from the kids on graduation day. It was, there was not a dry eye in that house. It was unbelievable. No, so, does that answer your question? I think you were next.
Yeah,
I didn't, and I'll get back to
It was
you.
just a particular thing about the mediation. I think what I'm picking up is the mediator is just helps people keep to the rules, if
Yes,
you like.
That's it.
They're non-judgmental. It's
Yes.
it's the other parties who come up with the plan.
Yes,
Yeah, okay. I just
exactly.
want to
That's
show
it.
you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I'm assuming that maybe the intellectual ability was okay in that case that you were talking about. What about, you know, we have state exams that are set at particular levels of intellectual ability. Do you know, I don't know if the two systems are comparable.
Well,
Am I wrong or right?
I'm not sure I buy the current system's analysis of what someone's intellectual ability is. Because the current system is so punitive that it really, I think, has almost zero idea. That's a little harsh maybe, but this girl, for instance, was right like 1 point above intelligence testing, above mental retardation. She was extremely challenged by everything in school. And I'm sure there are kids with lower abilities than she has that would be very challenged by it. But that said, everybody can be helped by this. I mean, whether you can get them exactly where they want to be is up to you, and how much time you've got, and how much time they've got, and how willing they are to work. That's,
They have to, in our system, they have to go into an exam center and do an exam if they want to.
Sure.
And
sure, these kids had to too. Right.
You know,
These kids have to do that too. I mean, that she could not pass those tests without, I mean, she had to pass the tests to get the graduation, the regular graduation. Is that what you're saying? Maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying.
And Charlotte, you're saying she had to get the B as well to pass the test, Murray standard.
The state gives the tests. We have nothing to do with the state tests. I mean, they go into a room, they have to take these state tests, they're graded by the state.
But
We
you have
have
a little bit
no,
of flexibility, have you a little bit of flexibility in your system there? Your target is a B for everybody, is that correct?
right.
But in this...
There would be no sense giving that girl a B in her coursework if she couldn't pass those tests. What good would our B be then? I mean, a B would not indicate...
Oh, the B comes into your coursework in Murray,
Right, the B is the grade that you would get for the course.
for the
Or an
coursework in
A,
Murray.
right.
And then there's the external test run by
Right.
by the state.
Right, but like it took her 2.5 years
Yes.
to get the grade of a B in her history class. It took her 2.5 years of work to do it. But at Murray, that was fine. I mean, we were happy she was willing to work for 2.5 years to get that history credit.
Yeah.
She could have said, I'm not doing it, give me a no credit, I'm not doing it, it's too hard. And it was really hard. I mean, the first time I met with her on history, and I was teaching her history, in that case, I'm certified to teach that also, I put a map of the world in front of her and said, can you find the Atlantic Ocean? She had not the vaguest idea. She's looking all over the map. She's looking in Europe. She doesn't even know what I mean by ocean. And I'm supposed to help her pass a test that's got 94 stupid English, American multiple choice tests, but that's what they are. They're just memorization of unrelated historic facts. I'm
Yes.
completely ashamed of such tests,
I
but
know, yeah.
there they are, and this kid had to pass that in order to graduate. This kid who didn't even know where the Atlantic Ocean was. So it took us 2.5 years, and we got there.
No, I can identify with that because probably the highlight of a long career was the tears shed by a dad the day the son's junior cert results came out. He passed 6 subjects. The reality of it was the dad had let him fall as a baby and the young fellow had brain damage. And the dad was creating so much hassle for this young fellow because the dad had a thing about history, he had a thing about success, and he had the whole guilt thing as well. And we'd had several meetings, but I remember previous to that, the day he came over and I said, this thing has to be sorted out. this guy was with the best history teacher in the school, who taught the world of the young fella, but he wasn't going to get it. So I got the situation that day that he was definitely giving up history with the dad's agreement, and I also got an indication from 5 teachers that he would pass his junior cert. I came up to the dad and told him that. Straight away the whole heat was taken out of it. He actually passed 6. And the dad wept, and that was one of the magic moments now of my, probably the most one that I'll bring with me forever. So again, that was your experience with the girl and the emotion that came from the classmates. Yeah. No, the failure word doesn't exist at all. We shouldn't put
That's our
students
question.
into exams to fail.
To me, it feels like when you put an F on someone, you're telling them stop working. You're saying, we agree with you, you can't do it. And it's okay, don't try. We're gonna write it down in our grade book, it's an F, and that's too bad for you. And we're gonna go on now to something tougher, and you're probably gonna fail that too, but that's okay too, we'll just put another F.
Oh yeah.
It's all right. You know, it just, the whole concept. And then, if you figure it out, and sometime in May, you get an A on something, and then you get another A and another A, it doesn't really matter, because we're going to average all those Fs you had
That's
before into it, so you're going to end up with a C or a D. Where did we come up with this system?
And
I
we
don't
wonder
know.
why they vandalise our toilets. But I've been wondering for many, many years, how come they don't burn them down? If they're coming out of a class where this is what they're getting all the time.
Because a lot of times they're blaming themselves.
Oh yes.
They think that we're right because we're the teacher, and they are failures, and they
Oh
are
yeah. Oh,
worthless.
sure.
and-
We're high and mighty. We're on huge pedestals. Charlotte, it's inspirational stuff.
Thank you. You too. I enjoyed that story. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. Charlotte, congratulations on your students this morning. They were amazing, and it was very obvious their self-esteem levels were way up there. How would you deal with a situation where, for instance, a problem like anorexia, which is obviously self-esteem based? Have you come across that?
Oh yeah, many times. And I would highly recommend a book by Dr. Glasser called Parents and Teens. If you haven't read that yet, you should get it and read it if you teach teenagers. It's a really good book. He does case studies of kids, like kids with anorexia or whatever. He looks at every different problem teenage kids have and how he worked with the parents to help that child. And, you know, if you help students, that's really a way to meet a power need, is what anorexia is. You can get a real power rush from not eating and controlling what food goes into your body, and your parents can't make you, and you can hide it, you can sneak it away, and nobody knows what you're doing, and you know, you can keep hold of that for a long time. It meets your power need beautifully. I mean, that's a choice theory way of looking at that. But long term, you die. So you meet your power need real well for a short time, and then you're dead. Okay. You know, so if you can help a student learn other ways to meet their power need besides that, and usually that's the only way they could think of to meet their power need, and it does it so well, it's worth keeping up, which is why they would do it till death. You know, it meets that need so well. So you help them find a lot of other ways to meet that power need, and there are millions. Like these kids met their power needs so well today. You know, they accomplished coming here, they accomplished teaching adults, they accomplished things that will meet their power need. Why would they need to do anorexia too? So pretty soon that starts to fall by the wayside. You know, and also at Murray we have kids who are bulimic and throw up a lot. And when they do that, other kids get really worried about them and come and say, you know, we need to mediate with them because they're throwing up in the bathroom every single day and we're really worried about them and we need to tell them that. So, okay. So when you hear it from your peer as, you know, we love you and we're afraid something bad is happening to you and we don't know what to do when you're doing this in the bathroom, and we hear you and we don't know how to handle it, we don't know how to be respectful to you about it, we don't want to hurt you, but we don't want you to hurt yourself around us because that upsets us too. What do? You know, that kind of talk for something that's been secret to a kid, that's very unusual. And so when you get that level of caring and that level of talk, it's hard to keep that up too. So it's just a process and it takes time.
If you would delve into it with the family, you would go deeper than just dealing with it.
If the student wants to, but no, we would not call the family on that, except maybe if we thought the student really didn't have a handle on that, like they really couldn't stop after a mediation or something like that, and we thought they were close to killing themselves or hurting themselves in that way, then we would tell them, we're gonna call your family about it because we're worried about it. And we don't think your family can make you stop. We're not calling them to enlist them to make you stop, because we don't think they can make you stop. We're not wanting to put them in that position. We just want your support team to know you're having trouble, and we want to be on your support team. So we would let them know that, but not as a, like, interfering in some way, more as a support system.